Welcome back, dear friends. Today we begin a journey across time, across cultures and across hearts. A journey that connects Persia to Germany, Shiraz to Weimar, and two of the greatest poets the world has ever known, Hafez and Goethe. What happens when a poet from 14th century Persia inspires a genius from 18th century Germany? And their words create a bridge between East and West that still stands today. Both men lived centuries apart, but their souls spoke the same language, the language of love, truth, and freedom. One wrote about wine and divine ecstasy, the other about light and human wisdom. Yet both sought the same thing, a connection between the human heart and the infinite. In this story, we'll explore how Hafez, the mystic of Shiraz, captured the spirit of divine love in his poetry. Goethe, the philosopher poet of Germany, found his own truth through Hafez's verses. And how together they proved that poetry has no borders, only bridges. Two poets, two worlds, one spirit. Their story is not about time or place. It's about the endless search for beauty, truth, and meaning. Let's begin where it all started, in the ancient city of Shiraz, where a young man named Hafez was about to change the world with his words. Hafez, the mystic of Shiraz, the poet of love and truth. In the 14th century, in the city of Shiraz, a boy named Khwaja Shams-ud-Din Muhammad Hafez was born. He would grow to become one of the greatest poets in Persian history, a man whose words could heal hearts and challenge kings. Hafez lived in a time of political chaos and spiritual confusion, but instead of giving in to darkness, he turned to poetry, his weapon of light, the language of wine and wisdom. When Hafez spoke of wine, he wasn't talking only about the drink itself. For him, wine was a symbol, a metaphor for divine love, freedom, and the joy of being alive. He wrote, "The wine of love fills my soul, and the cup-bearer of heaven pours it endlessly." His verses blended earthly passion with spiritual longing, inviting people to see beyond religion, beyond fear, toward truth, beauty, and love. The rebel of the soul. Hafez didn't fear authority. He mocked the hypocrisy of fake holy men and praised the simple joys of life. He believed that God lives not in temples or rituals, but in the human heart. He said, "I am in love with love itself, not with heaven or hell." The Divan of Hafez. Hafez's poetry became so beloved that people began using his book, the Divan-e-Hafez, for guidance, a tradition still alive today in Iran, known as Fal-e-Hafez. Even now, millions open his book to seek meaning, believing his words carry divine insight. Hafez taught the world that love is the truest form of wisdom, and poetry is the voice of the soul. Centuries later, his words would cross deserts and oceans and reach the heart of another poet in a distant land called Germany. Goethe, the philosopher poet of Germany. The birth of a genius. In 1749, in the city of Frankfurt, Germany, a boy named Johann Wolfgang von Goethe was born. From a young age, Goethe was fascinated by the mysteries of life, love, and the human soul. He was not just a poet, he was a scientist, philosopher, playwright, and visionary. Goethe believed that true art connects humans to the divine energy of creation, the same spirit that moves nature, light and love. The early works. In his youth, Goethe became famous for his novel The Sorrows of Young Werther, a story so emotional that it inspired an entire generation across Europe. But deep inside, he was searching for something more, a wisdom beyond reason, a voice beyond philosophy. That voice would come not from the West, but from the East. The light seeker. Goethe's fascination with light and nature was more than scientific. He saw light as a symbol of divine truth, something pure, eternal, and full of love. To him, poetry was not just words. It was the music of the soul. He once wrote, "A person who knows no foreign language knows nothing of their own." That idea would soon guide him to discover a foreign language, the language of Persian mysticism. As Goethe grew older, his search for truth took him beyond the borders of Europe. One day, he opened a book of Persian poetry and found a soul whose words felt like his own. That poet was Hafez of Shiraz. The connection between Hafez and Goethe, the meeting of two souls. It was the early 19th century. Goethe, now an old man, was searching for something that philosophy and science could no longer give him: spiritual joy. One day, he came across a German translation of the Divan of Hafez. The moment he began reading, he was captivated. The words of Hafez felt like a mirror of his own soul. Hafez spoke of love, truth, and the divine, not through cold logic, but through beauty, humor, and passion. Goethe was stunned. He felt as if he had found a friend, a brother, across time and culture. Inspiration for the West-Östlicher Divan. Moved by Hafez's spirit, Goethe wrote his masterpiece, West-Östlicher Divan, the West-Eastern Divan. It was not just a collection of poems, it was a conversation between two poets, one from Shiraz, one from Weimar, both searching for divine unity through poetry. Goethe called Hafez his twin soul. He said, "Hafez, you are my equal. In you I find freedom, joy, and eternal youth, a bridge of understanding." Through Hafez, Goethe discovered the mystical heart of the East, where love and faith meet, where the soul dances beyond reason. For the first time, a European poet spoke with the voice of Persia and showed the world that poetry could unite civilizations. Two poets, two worlds, one conversation, eternal and boundless. Their connection became a symbol of understanding between cultures, and their poetry still whispers the same truth today. Love is the universal language of the soul. Shared themes: love, freedom, and God. Love as the path to truth. For both Hafez and Goethe, love was not just an emotion. It was a path to divine understanding. Hafez saw love as the wine of the soul, a sweet intoxication that connects humans to the Creator. He wrote, "Love is the only reality. Everything else is illusion." Goethe felt the same. For him, love was the light of existence, something that gives life purpose and beauty. He said, "We are shaped and guided by what we love." In their world, love wasn't about possession. It was about transcendence. To love deeply was to know God. freedom and the courage to question. Both poets were rebels in their own way. Hafez challenged the hypocrisy of his time, mocking false saints and rigid dogma. He believed that true faith is born from the heart, not from fear. Goethe, too, questioned the limits of religion and philosophy. He sought a world where reason and spirit could coexist. He admired Hafez's fearless laughter, the courage to find freedom even in a cage. God beyond religion. Neither poet saw God as distant or unreachable. For Hafez, God was the beloved, present in every smile, every breath, every glass of wine. For Goethe, God was the light of nature, shining through all forms of beauty and creation. Both believed that truth is found not in temples or books, but in the experience of wonder, love, and being alive. From the gardens of Shiraz to the libraries of Weimar, their poems spoke of the same truth, that the heart knows more than the mind ever can. And because of that, their words didn't just survive. They changed the way the world understands poetry, faith, and love. Influence on the world. The global reach of Hafez. Centuries after his death, Hafez's poetry traveled far beyond Persia. His words were translated into dozens of languages. Philosophers, writers, and artists from all over the world admired him. From Emerson and Nietzsche to Goethe himself, Hafez became a symbol of spiritual freedom, his verses quoted by scholars, mystics, and even musicians. In Iran, his poems are still read every day, and around the world he is seen as the voice of divine love. He didn't just influence poetry, he influenced the way people feel and think about life. Goethe's impact on the West. Goethe, in turn, became the soul of European literature. His works shaped modern thought, from philosophy to psychology. Writers like Nietzsche, Hermann Hesse, and even Carl Jung were deeply influenced by Goethe's ideas about the unity of nature and spirit. When Goethe published the West-Östliche Divan, he didn't just write poems, he opened a door between East and West. He showed that wisdom is not owned by one culture, but shared by all humanity. The chain of inspiration. Think about it, Sultan. Hafez inspired Goethe. Goethe inspired generations of thinkers in Europe. And now their combined wisdom continues to inspire millions, teaching us that love and knowledge have no borders. Their words crossed centuries, languages, and empires, and still shine with the same light today. From the gardens of Shiraz to the streets of Frankfurt, from Persian mysticism to German philosophy, their voices echo in harmony, reminding us that art can unite where politics divide. Legacy and the eternal dialogue. The voice that never fades. Centuries have passed, yet the voices of Hafez and Goethe still echo. Their poems are recited in homes, schools, and gatherings, from Shiraz to Berlin, from Tehran to New York. Hafez's Divan sits in every Iranian home, not just as a book, but as a spiritual guide, a mirror of the soul. Goethe's Divan remains one of Europe's greatest literary treasures, a reminder that the East and West are not opposites, but reflections of one another. The eternal dialogue. Hafez spoke in the language of mystery and love. Goethe answered in the voice of reason and light. Together they formed an eternal conversation, one that transcends religion, culture, and time. Their poetry whispers one simple truth. The heart of every human being speaks the same language, the language of love. The legacy today. Modern poets, philosophers, and dreamers still look to Hafez and Goethe for inspiration. Their work continues to teach us that faith without love is hollow, knowledge without humility is blind, and beauty, true beauty, belongs to everyone. In a divided world, their friendship reminds us that understanding is possible, that poetry can heal what politics cannot. So, my friends, from the gardens of Shiraz to the libraries of Weimar, two poets spoke across centuries, and their words still invite us to listen. Whether you read Hafez under a Persian sky or Goethe beneath a German moon, remember this: their dialogue never ended, because love never ends.